So for this week's movement breakdown, we're going to be talking about the Cable Tricep Pushdown. Everyone should be familiar with this movement. I'm pretty sure that this is like the first muscle mag exercise that you see after maybe like, I don't know, bench press. But there's a lot of different ways that people can mess this up. And there's a few cues that we want to talk about to actually make this movement as beneficial as possible for the majority. You'll see here that we have a rope on the cable extension attachment thing. Whenever we're performing this, I actually do not prefer a rope for the majority of people. Why is that? So the rope is actually going to be inherently a little bit limited with how you're able to actually exert and express your power. So whenever we're here, we get to this point, and then we're always being pulled back into the middle because the anchor is right in the middle of this rope. We're always being pulled into the middle. Most ropes are not actually long enough to create any kind of distribution of that tension, of that load, for us to be able to maintain a healthy and strong shoulder and shoulder blade position with our upper back. That's very, very important for being able to exert and distribute power whenever we're performing any kind of tricep extension. So with the rope, you'll see that we're here, we're extending down and back, but we're always kind of running into some issues here with that rope hitting us, or it's always trying to want to internally rotate our shoulders at the bottom. So how do we fix that? Well, I actually prefer either a longer strap like this, which does give us a little bit of leeway and a little bit more freedom. So here, you'll see that this actually works much, much, much better than the rope does. Same exact functionality though. Or my personal favorite is being able to use some kind of long individual straps like this and actually having a handle in which to work from. So here, we can actually hold on to that handle and we can still lead with our pinky, but now we have much more force output than we do with the rope. So this is, in general, a much better option for the actual attachment. So whenever we're performing the movement, you'll see a couple of things here. So the first one is that my hips are back, my torso is in line with the cable. So if I'm back here standing up tall, not the best way to perform a tricep extension because that line of force from the cable is just not being distributed very evenly. My triceps are super weak in that position. I'm just not getting a lot of power. I'm not getting a full range of motion. A lot of things going wrong there. So here, if I keep my torso angled about the same as that cable, I'm actually able to apply consistent tension through the entire rep. And to do this, you might need to take a couple steps back. You might need to tinker with your body position, your torso position a little bit. You might need to elevate or drop the cable where it's actually attached up there. Whatever way you need to do it, make sure that you get into that position because it does make a huge difference. So another thing you'll see here, is I will refrain from doing it, but you'll see what my upper arms are doing in relation to my shoulders. So here, instead of me being slumped and internally rotated and just pushing straight down, you'll see that my shoulder blades are retracted, my chest is up, my hips are back. My upper arms are actually kind of pointed back. My elbows are kind of pointed back and they're extended. The reason for that is because with these tricep extensions, with using the cable, we want to get our triceps as short and as contracted as possible. To do that, they actually need to be extended. Our shoulders need to be backwards because that's where we're gonna get the most contracted, the most shortened position. If we are here and our elbows are pointed straight down, we're gonna be able to contract pretty hard. We'll be able to get our triceps relatively short. But contrast, if we're here and our elbows are pointed back and we're kicking that back like that, our elbows are actually going to be in the perfect position to get our triceps as short as possible. With that, you'll notice very quickly that your triceps are very, very, very short, or excuse me, very weak in that position, in that shortened position, and that's okay. That's what we want. You're gonna notice that you can't do the full stack anymore. You might need to go halfway or even a third up the stack because they are meant to be very weak in that position. The shorter that they get, the more contracted they get, the weaker that they're going to get. So with that being said, we can go over some very quick mistakes. I think I covered a good majority of them, but we'll be able to extrapolate a few out of that. But some mistakes that people will often make that just don't allow them to get the most out of the cable tricep pushdown. So now as we're gonna go through just a few common mistakes, and again, just extrapolating off of the cues that we were talking about with the cable tricep pushdowns, the mistakes are gonna be pretty straightforward, pretty simple. So whenever we are doing any kind of tricep work, we always just need to understand what the intent is. So if it is a skull crusher, we know that the intent is to mostly get just a deep stretch, work mostly through that mid-range of what our tricep fiber length is. With tricep extensions on cables and pushdowns, we know that we're really trying to work through that contraction. We're trying to get them very short, like what we already talked about. So whenever we are performing the movement, we need to always keep that in mind. So one of the biggest mistakes I see people do is they're performing tricep extensions on cables like this. So this is all fine and dandy, but you're not really getting the most out of what the cable allows you to do, which is to get them as contracted as possible. Again, it's what we want. We want those elbows pointed back. We want shoulder extension. We want really, really short triceps because we're not really gonna be able to get that with free weights. So use the cables for what they're actually intended to do, and they will even out that resistance curve, that strength curve whenever we're performing this movement. Get them really short, don't cheat it. On the cheating component, again, whenever we are in that really deep contracted position, elbows are all the way back and triceps are really, really short, our triceps are gonna be super weak. So even if we're performing perfect reps here, eventually we're gonna get to a point where we just can't fully lock out. So maybe we just get super fatigued. We just can't all the way get to that full lockout position. So we could continue going and just do this. We could in the set, or we could shift to something that's a little bit different. So a mistake that I see people do a lot here is whenever they're in this position, everything is technically perfect, they hit that failure point and they just start going and just repping out like this. It's fine, just not getting that much out of it. Instead, what you could do is you could actually shift your elbows down a little tiny bit to continue to actually mechanically make the movement slightly easier and allow your triceps to take that set a little bit further. Lastly, already what we talked about, mistakes, not getting that cable angle correct. So again, if you are back here, performing tricep pushdowns, really, really poor angle to actually get the most out of it. You want that angle of the cable to line up very nicely with your torso, so you can have a very consistent tension from all the way up here, very lengthened tricep position here, all the way through very contracted. You want that consistent tension to be able to get that full range of motion rather than, just doing half reps here at the bottom or half reps here at the top. But other than that, most people know how to visualize cable tricep extensions, but there are subtleties like what we just explained. You need to understand those things, whether it's body position, whether it's way to set up the cable, whether it's the right attachments to be able to get the most out of this movement.